What's up, everybody? This is the Hype Seat, where real ones drop real strategy in real time. This is no scripts, no fillers, no BS. We go live across TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram. So what you are hearing right now, it is raw, real, and it's happening as we speak. No perfect edits, no motivational theater, just unfiltered conversations with people who actually walk the walk. This show is for builders, leaders, people who want to create momentum in a world full of noise, pressure, and distractions. So if you're growing a business, building a brand, or figuring out what's next, and you're tired of playing small or playing safe, you are in the right place. Each week, I bring on voices that matter, not because they're famous, but because they're doing something worth talking about. If they're innovating, disrupting, or leading with intention, we are putting them in the high seat. So today we've got Michelle Miramontez. Thank you so much for joining us. She's got 13 years in the real estate game and the creator of the Open House Mastermind, which we are going to get into today. But let's just kick this off, Michelle. I want to be upfront with you, okay? Because I have, in my real estate career, I've never been the open house girl. I didn't build my business with that. And I know a lot of agents swear by them. And some agents have, maybe some misconceptions about them or haven't had very much success with them. So, a lot of agents that I coach say, I prep and I sit there and I make small talk and I think I'm doing the right things, but they walk away with a couple names and not really much results from it. So I want you to sell me on it, Michelle. I want to hear all things about this and what you do, because you're doing it at a really high level. And now you're starting to train agents to do that. So my first question for you is, what is the biggest mistake that agents are making at their open houses? And why should someone like me, or maybe an agent that is struggling with them or never tried them before, care enough to change their mind on these things?
Ooh, the biggest mistake. Only one?
No, tell me all the things. I want to know the tea.
Well, here's one thing. And I love how you said the disruptors, right? Because I feel like I'm a disruptor in the industry, in the norm of what's going on out there. And I think one of the reasons that people think they don't work is because of the little mistakes. And I think they're sneaky mistakes. Mm-hmm. And one of them, and people just always are like, wait, what? Is handing out flyers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't hand out flyers. Okay. Tell me about this, because I think that's controversial, I think.
Right? I think so too.
Okay. So tell me about that.
Yeah. So when you hand out a flyer, here's what happens too. Agents spend tons of hours on Canva making these flyers, or tons of money, right? Getting flyers. It has all of the information on there. And what you're hoping is they're going to get it, take it home, and call you, right?
Yep.
It's like hope marketing. And what happens is, you'll notice they're out on the street. They're just, they don't save them. They don't keep them. And here's another thing. It's almost like you're hiding behind a flyer.
Okay.
So all the information is on there. They have no reason to talk to you. Mm-hmm. So when you go to ask, do you have any questions? They're like, nope, I'm good. Everything's here. And so my big thing is, you must have conversations with people walking through the door. You've got to build that trust and that connection. That 101, sales 101, know, like, and trust. You have to do that at your open houses.
Okay. I like that. And I'm so glad you brought up conversations, because I tell my agents all the time that I coach, the real estate agent selling the most real estate is having the most conversations, if you were to boil it down to everything. So I love the fact that you're hitting on that key principle, that you have to have the conversations, and it starts at the open house. You chat with them. It's not just sign in here, go do your thing, and then walk out the door.
Right. And that's the biggest mistake. And I think no one's really been taught how to host a proper open house. They see other agents doing this. Oh, I just handed a flyer. I sit there, I make them sign in, and I'm going to call them on Monday. Well, Monday rolls around and you don't do it. They've already been captured by another agent, because they're going up to open houses all day. And if they know my system, another agent has already captured them.
Love that. I love that. Because yes, the one thing I hear from the agents that I coach and train is that, like, but Jenn, I did everything right. I had the signs out. I printed the flyers. I had the snacks, and still nothing came from it. And it's like, well, yeah, because, having the event isn't enough. It's not, and that's not the same thing as working the opportunity. And that goes for any lead generation strategy. It's the same thing I say over and over. It doesn't matter what you're doing. If you don't have a clear goal, a reason behind the questions that you're asking, and a plan for what happens after the event or after the call or after the door knock, whatever it is, then it just becomes noise, and it doesn't matter what lead gen strategy it is. So, so I like that. But, and for me too, it's not a matter of whether or not they work. It's about how the agents are using them. And then most, like you said, aren't being taught how to approach them strategically. And so then they just decide and assume that, oh, well, open houses don't work, or it's just not a good strategy, right? And that's where I spend a lot of time with agents, is looking at how do you show up? How do you transition your conversations? How do you follow through in a way that actually builds trust, which is what you touched on as well? Because at the end of the day, it's not about charm or what, it's about the conversation structure to get to the conversion piece of it.
Yes, the conversion.
Yes. So let's talk like beyond the surface of that, because I know some of the things that you have to chat about is about like real conversation, not just scripted lines. And I'm always here for that. So you and I completely align on this. So, you could have 40 people walk into your open house and still walk away with nothing if you don't know how to actually talk to them. And you kind of started on that. And when I say talk, I don't mean like smile, nod, let me know if you have any questions type of a thing, like you were saying. And so how do agents get from that surface level mode to then create the real conversations that convert, that I know you coach and train on?
Yeah, I have a whole conversational framework, I call it. And it is a script, but it's conversational. And so once you come into, my world, we practice it over and over and over. So then eventually it sounds just like a conversation. But it's not small talk. Every question has a purpose.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I love how you touched on it too. Like most agents focus on like the event, right? And they're spending all of this money to get the snacks because that's what they think they should do. And that's fun. It's fun, but it's not fun when you buy all these snacks and no one shows up.
Like, I bought these 6 months ago.
Yeah. And like you said, you can have 30 people come through because they're focusing on that. Agents will ask me, how do I market my open houses? Because they think because I'm the open house coach, I'm going to teach you how to get tons of people in your open house. But if you don't know how to convert the 30 families that come in, like you said, you're going to walk away with none.
Bingo. I love that, because I actually do a monthly free call called Follow Up is Forever. And what you touched on right there, it's about the follow-up. And I know that widely it's assumed and said and coached on that lead generation is number one, lead follow-up is like 1B, but I actually think it's the opposite. You could have thousands and thousands of leads, but if you're not following up, we know that the conversion percentage and the times that you have to reach out to people, most of the time you're not converting after the first call or the first open house meeting or whatever it might be. It's between the 6th and 12th contact that's when the conversion happens. So it's the follow-up that really matters in a lot of this. So like you said, it's not about how do I get 50 people in my open house. It's about what am I doing afterwards to follow up and nurture those conversations into conversions. So
one of the things I do is I get a target date from people, and it's huge for your follow-up. So I'm already teaching you that at your open house, you're getting this target date from them. And then now you're putting them into a like follow-up system, like in your head at the open house. So you know exactly how to follow up with them based on where you've put them, right? And so now what tends to happen is if you're just getting people on sign-in sheets and you're following up with them, you don't know where they're at in the process. You haven't even asked them that, because all you're concerned about is telling them about the property or how many bedrooms are you looking for, how many baths. But you have no idea what they really want and their timeline.
Right. And
so that's why agents will get stuck on, I can't believe they didn't call me back. I thought we had a great conversation. It's because they're a B client. They're not an A client.
100%. That's so important. It's funny because we coach and train agents like, hey, get motivation and get what is their timing. Right. But, you have to translate. Actually, that's what you should do at the open house. I love that. That is awesome. And that is not a question that I, have thought about in the past to ask, like, physically at the open house necessarily. And I think a lot of agents miss that.
Yes.
Is like, okay, well, what is your, because sometimes people, as we know, people walk through and they're just looky-loos, or they're like, oh yeah, we're going to be moving in a year or whatever, but that's still a great contact. And if you know that, yeah, they might seem like a looky-loo, but in the near future, they might be making a move. So if you know that, then you can stay top of mind for when they are ready.
Yes.
I love that. I love that. So talk to me a little bit about, because some of this stuff, a lot of agents that I coach have some confidence issues, and, they struggle with that, and they get in this loop where they think confidence is about saying the right thing. And I love that you talked about, like, yes, it's a script, but it's about being conversational. It's something different.
Yes.
And it's not just about having the exact right words to say. So how do you get people to shift? Like, number one, increase that confidence, but then also shift for what people think it is versus what it really is to have confidence, and exude that when they're talking to people at an open house.
Yeah, I think confidence is comes from clarity, right? And when you don't have a clear plan, or know what you're going to say, that's where the lack of confidence is, right? So what I tell people is that you must go out there and just practice over and over and over and over. You cannot do one open house and expect it to work. Although I have had results that way, but you have to practice. And what I tell, and most agents will say, I'm going to do an open house with that kind of commission breath. I hate to say, but but, and because they're like, I need to get a lead, a transaction, a client right away at this open house. This is what it's there for. But they can feel that energy from you.
100%.
Right?
Yep.
So you have to just keep practicing over and over and over and doing these, and knowing that maybe a couple open houses I'm going to practice till I get to, then you build that confidence.
100%.
And that confidence leads to that energy that they feel, and you're like, what? And then it starts to the ball starts rolling.
Yeah. And that reminds me of the principle, I don't know what it's called, but essentially of how communication works and how people receive that. Bye, baby. So how people receive communication, and a lot of people think that the agents get so focused on scripts, right? Well, what is exactly that I'm saying? But only 7% of the communication that people receive from you, 7% of it is what you actually say, the actual script piece of it. And 33% of it is your tone. And what does that leave? 56% or whatever left over is your body language. And what's really cool at an open house, all three of those can go into play. And so your body language says whether or not you're confident or you're not. The tone of how you speak with them. So your body language and tone, the two most important factors in communication, they're instantly seeing and feeling as they walk in the door, and the first thing that you say to them. So I think that's super important when you practice and practice and practice. That's going to elevate and help with all three of those areas of communication to help you convert. And, I just, for everybody out there that's listening, like your success and like the dreams and the goals that you have, like, people don't care how smooth you are. They care, like what you were saying about how safe that they feel with you. And if they feel safe, then they can trust you. And like you said, that comes from clarity and being present, and not just, thinking of the next thing or what do I say next? So asking the questions that show that you understand their reality and what they need, not just rehearsing, like half-baked new pitches, that you're hearing or that you read off of a script before you. So we work with a lot with agents on that in my world, because the way you speak when you're regulated with your emotions and you've got that under control, that's what builds trust. So
I love that you said that. I'm all about nervous system regulation and knowing when you're not regulated, and I
had a science nerd with me. I love it. I was a psychology major, so I'm like, I can nerd out on this stuff all day.
Me too. I was a biology major.
Oh my gosh. See, look at that.
I nerd out on it.
We're on the same page here. I love this. So an encouragement though, for anyone that's listening right now. And if you're thinking, well, like, I'm just not good at that, or like, I don't understand that, right? I want you guys to hear that like no one is born good at this, right? Michelle, I'm sure you didn't just start your real estate career and be like, oh, this is how I regulate my nervous system, and this is how I need to show up, and this is how I create conversations, right? Like what you're hearing us talk about, it's a skill set, and it can be trained and coached and practiced and refined. And it gets way easier when you stop trying to perform and just like own who you are, what you're good at, and genuinely creating those conversations that help lead you into those conversions that we're talking about. So I want to talk about how we get there, because we hear fake it till you make it, right? And you can, for in the short term, fake it till you make it, but you can't fake true confidence, and that's what everyone's after, right? So I want to get into that next. And how do you help agents shift out of that awkward self-doubt energy and into something that actually feels like it's them and it's natural? Because as we know, the delivery piece of that is everything.
It is. It is. I have a guided meditation also that I tell people, listen to on your way to the open house. Listen to it when you're getting ready. It's just this guided meditation, because you affirmations work really, really well. That's how you help regulate your nervous system and know like that you're safe, right? You're safe.
Yep.
Also, with the script, I tell people to practice it not just at your open houses, to practice it with your family and friends, and but don't tell them you're doing it. And I always tell people, when you're at like the barbecue next weekend, and you're meeting someone for the first time, and you're that awkward silence. What do we talk about? I challenge people, do the script, use the script, and doing it and doing it. People will not know you're doing it. You are having a conversation. It's genuine. It's not salesy at all. It's all based on finding out what their needs are.
Absolutely. No, I love that. And I know that, what derails agents, even really talented agents, is that sometimes they're focused on things that aren't going to build that confidence. Like, well, I know the market really well. I actually live in this neighborhood that I'm holding a house in, or I know the inventory, and they show up to the open house with all the right intentions.
Yes.
But something happens when they get face to face with people, like either they shrink, or they ramble on too long, or they check out because there's not enough people coming through. And so like that opportunity kind of slips. And, like you were saying, that confidence shift is kind of that thing that changes everything. So what does that look like in real life? Like how, when you're coaching people on really leveling up and like open house, powerhouse, strategies, how do you help someone move forward in, if they're, already like doing well and decent, but they're kind of struggling with some of that, like other than, the affirmations, is there any other tip that you can give people that are like, man, like I know I'm prepared, but when I'm having these conversations, it's still kind of awkward when I get face to face with people?
Yeah, I think it's just flipping the belief, right? Flipping that shifting that belief for people that they need to talk about the market, and they need to talk about the specs of the home, and they need to talk about the specs of the home that they want. Those, that's what they're used to seeing. That's what they think they need to do. And right. And they also think they need to be about me. It's a lot of agents is like me, right? So they go out and buy all of the promotional items that have your name on it and everything. And they're, if you go to an open house, it's like this huge display. It's usually all about here's my flyers, here's pens, here's this, here's that, all about me. And I think the one thing is like having agents just shift that belief that you've got to have a conversation with them and find out what they need right there, right then and there, not at on your follow-up.
100%. I love that. Yep. And also too, you touched on this about, if the way that you're talking, because scripts are meant to be a tool, and I know you've got some really solid scripts that are conversational, and though that tool is really important, but also kind of mixing that in with the confidence piece. If you're talking in a way that doesn't sound like you, and it's not who you are, that's also going to be a hindrance to the conversion. And I talk about that all the time inside my Hype Collective, that agents I coach. I'm reminding them, you don't need to sound like me. You don't need to sound like Michelle. You need to sound sound like someone who knows who they are, what they stand for, because that's going to help with that confidence piece of taking these tools and making them your own,
Yes.
and in your own brand voice and who you are. Because, confidence doesn't mean copying somebody else exactly, but
Mhm.
it's like what we're talking about, being rooted, but having that belief, the right mindset. And when you're rooted in all of those things, that's where people trust you, because you trust yourself. You have
Yes.
belief in yourself without, and then you don't have to convince anyone of anything. Then it becomes well, this is an opportunity. This person is raising their hand. They have some interest in doing this. I'm
Mhm.
I'm the person that can help them do that, and I'm the best at it. So I think all
Yes.
of those points you touched on, super, super important.
Yes.
And I know we touched on this too, about just the confidence creating the safety piece. The client doesn't need you as the agent. And again, this goes for open houses, for anything. Because I know the agents that I've talked to about this, they're like, especially if an agent, let's just say, is holding an open house for a listing that's not theirs. I know a lot of agents do that. And especially, sometimes newer agents are trying to get business. And hear me loud and clear, clients do not need you to have all the answers about
Right.
a house. They need you to feel like you can handle the questions that come up and be confident that, hey, you know what? That's a great question. I'm going to find that out for you. Like it's even if you don't know something, it's not that you need to know everything. It's that you have the confidence that you're a problem solver, and you will
Right.
get that answer for them.
Right. Yes, and that's like again, like I was saying, is if you're holding an open house open for another agent, you're concerned about, oh, let me learn all about this house. Let me learn all about it.
Mm.
Versus let me learn all about the clients that are coming in, or the leads that are coming in.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. It's way more about, like you said, focusing on what are their needs, asking them questions, letting them tell the story, and
Yeah.
then your follow-up systems after that, which I want to get into this, because I know that you've created the Open House Mastermind, and you've built something specifically for agents who, they want to stop winging it. Maybe
Yeah.
they've had, just not very good results from open houses, and they want to build confidence in that, and know that when they walk into it, that all the prep work, and at the appointment, and the follow-up, and the confidence, and all of that. So tell me about the Open House Mastermind, who it's for, what it covers, and why it's different from just, here's another script kind of a program.
Yeah, I'm so excited about the mastermind. Oh, we have our kickoff party next week. And yeah, it's specifically for, gosh, I want not just newer agents, but newer agents, right? Because they don't have the confidence, right? But even struggling agents, or agents that want to change it up with their lead gen, right? And actually get clients. So newer agents, yes, we go over the confidence, and we role play. That's the thing. Like, the script is so simple. It's like 5 or 6 questions, I think, and they're in order. You must do them in order, because there's a reason. There's a psychology behind it.
Yep.
And just so we meet once a week so that we can role play. So it's like, go out, do an open house, book your open house, go out, do it. Now let's come back and let's talk about it.
Mhm.
What happened? What did you fumble on? Like, and then yeah, we go from there.
Awesome. So once a week, and then is it something that they sign up for a certain amount of time? Is it ongoing? What does the structure of the program look like?
Yeah. So it's a monthly membership. And
Awesome.
it's ongoing. And what's really cool is that once you get in there, you can meet agents from all over. I'm hoping my mission is to get them from all over the world. Would be great, if they do open houses there. I was just in London, and I was looking around, like, to see, I'm like, are there any open houses? And I even Googled, do they do open houses in London? And so,
Yeah.
but the program that I have it in, you can meet other agents. And so networking is going to be great. That's going to be huge also, that I think a lot of agents want to do, referrals. So
Love
that's
it. Yep, absolutely. I do those similar things too in the Hype Collective, because community is so important too when you're, gonna do a coaching program and things like that. And I think a lot of times, if it's just a course, like set it and forget it, or here's a script pack, or what, but it's the interaction, it's the live coaching, it's the practice, it's the accountability, and the community opens up opportunities, your skill building, and doing all of that, and having that. So I think that's great that you have multiple layers to that open house mastermind, and the fact that, on a weekly basis, they are getting that
Yeah.
coaching and training that they need and actual real feedback. And you're saying, hey, go do it, go do the open house and let's talk about it, because action is the biggest way to build the confidence, to get the result, to actually know where the gaps are so that you know where to improve. So you have to slow down enough to actually, change the behavior. Otherwise, you're just going to end up sounding like, someone else with a nervous smile, or doing the things that, every other agent is doing in open house. So.
Right. And a pet peeve of mine is like sitting behind your computer at an open house, like in the kitchen, not even by the front door. It's like, please don't do that.
Don't act checked out, right? So for anyone listening, if your open houses either haven't been working, or they felt off, or you're newer and you haven't tried them yet, and that's something you want to do, don't take it as proof that they're dead or they don't work. Take it as proof that your system needs work, your delivery needs the clarity, and your follow-up might need a little bit of a rework on that. So, and that's the work. And again, that applies for any lead generation strategy that you're doing. I think it's really cool that you're niching down into something where you can really tackle, because, I advise real estate agents to pick 2 to 3 lead generation strategies and really go all in on those. And so open houses are, for a lot of agents that I coach, like that is one of their things. And so I think this would be a great way for people to plug in and really like level up, be held accountable, and ultimately close more deals, help more people, provide more value, just by getting better at that, at those skills that it takes.
Yes. Love it. Love it. And I love what you said about, like, that's why I wanted to build community, because I think community also holds you accountable.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
So fun.
And, and adding to that point, you can be the nicest, most hardworking, good intentioned agent out there, but if you don't know how to lead a conversation, and you don't build those skills, you will spend years burning yourself out trying to be liked instead of respected. And I think too much people have this customer service approach to real estate, when really it's not about being liked or being the best intentioned. It's, respect is really important. How you get respect, and AKA people to hire you, is that you know how to communicate, you know how to move to the next step and help guide people to do that. And it's about so much more than just knowing the market or knowing everything about the house that you're showing or having an open house for. So
yes, I love that. 100%.
Absolutely. Okay. So, just to kind of recap, because just of what we're talking about, because I think there's so many important points in here. And I know you go over a lot of this stuff in your program, but in general, we need more intention, which leads to more clarity, and strategic pressure, like pressure on our, for us as the agent to do better and provide more value, but also strategic pressure on how to get clients to move to that next step. And that's ultimately what you're looking for to do when you're having those open houses. So like less overthinking, less, shape shifting to sound like somebody else or sound professional, whatever that means. Doing those things is ultimately going to move that needle forward, I guess, of when you're going into those open houses and ultimately trying to convert those. So, so let's flip it, because I want to ask a question. So on the opposite side, because we talked about like what, the mistakes that people are making, where are the gaps that that agents are, not realizing that need to fill. But what are the agents who are doing this well, that you maybe have coached and trained, and things that you, and results that you've gotten? What are those agents that are getting good results? Like, what are they doing differently? Or like, what is the kind of success that you've seen out of implementing your strategies for open houses?
Well, it's funny too, because a lot of people will say, sales is a numbers game, right? You'll hear that sales is a numbers game. I don't believe that. I don't believe. Yeah. Like I told you, I'm disrupting it all.
Yes. I love disruptors. Let's go.
So I don't believe you need to do 100 open houses to get one client, right? Some people will say you need a door knock on 100 doors, call 100 people to get one client. You can get one client this weekend, really, and not even not even having 30 people come in. If you had, say, 3 people come in, you could get 2 buyers and 1 listing lead. this weekend and be under contract. So that's one of my clients. She did that. She learned the system. And what she was doing before, she was doing open houses because she was like, I like these. I feel like this is my thing. It feels good. It's fun. People are coming to me. She's like, I like getting dressed up. I like being in beautiful homes. People are coming to me. Right. But she's like, I felt awkward. I didn't know what to say. And so she learned the system, and literally that next weekend, she found a buyer, came in, she walked them through it. On Monday, she got them pre-approved. Wednesday, they were looking at homes, and she was under contract within a week.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Yeah. So it's like, it's literally right now. Like, and I always tell agents too, like the next call that you make that you don't want to make, like that could be a $10,000 commission check. Like it's, you know, sure, numbers are a factor into things, but you have to treat every lead as if that's the next person that's ready, willing, and able to buy or sell. And so I think that's really important too, that because sometimes I think there's that balance between it's a numbers game versus, well, but that next number could be the opportunity. So sometimes when you're kind of swimming in the activity of it, or you know, all these leads and all of that, you just, you know, you kind of look at all of them like potentials or maybes, instead of having the urgency and intention of, hey, this next person that could walk through the open house could actually be my next closing.
Yes. Yes. I love that word that you used to, because I like to use that word intention. Like you go in with an intention of just walking away with one client versus walking away with 30 leads.
It's a mindset shift. It's definitely, and it kicks up that urgency. I tell everybody there's nothing in real estate that's urgent, but you should infuse urgency in every communication, every action that you take, so that it's, you know, so that you do push people, you know, to the next step. And it's not pushy in a salesy, pushy way, but it's like, hey, if people actually want to buy and sell something, and you know that, then be that person that gives them that next step, show them the way, lead them, guide them. That's what they hire us for.
Yes.
So.
And what's huge, why I love open houses so much is that people are getting in their car, getting out off their couch, off of Netflix to go look at, right? So they're not all looky-loos. The people that are going in are really warm, hot leads.
Absolutely. Yeah. And even if they quote unquote are, they're not necessarily right now. I mean, like you said, people, like they had to plan their schedule, give something else up on their coveted weekends to attend this, you know, even if it's a next door neighbor, like that, you know, don't treat that as just, oh, they're just looking, they're not serious. It's like, no, eventually they probably will move or sell or buy. And so, so speaking on that with systems, right? You know, it's important to have those systems. And I know you talk about this in following up with all of these agents, but the agents who do open houses well, who do lead generation well, they're not guessing every time, and they're not waking up, you know, hoping someone walks in the door and just magically becomes the client. They have a flow. There's a follow-up cadence and a tone that builds that trust, keeps top of mind for those leads. And again, that's coachable. It's not, you don't have to have a certain personality type, but there's a process to that.
Yes.
I know that's what we teach in my world. Sounds like that's exactly, you know, what you teach on in your world. So is there anything you want, because we're going to move into one of my favorite rounds of a this or that, but is there anything you want to like recap or touch on that we didn't cover that you do in your program?
I do, because you mentioned it a little bit when you said the neighbor, and that's another, I think, misconception that people have. And I've even heard top producers in offices tell agents like, oh, don't do open houses. Those are just breeding grounds for nosy neighbors. And I'm just like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. Those are your next listings. Those are your next listings.
100%. Yes, I know. I remember a while back, I was talking to an agent, like, oh, I have this idea. They were gonna do an open house. I'm like, why don't you do a private neighborhood only open house 30 minutes before the public one, and tell the neighbors to come in and be nosy, because right, you know, they probably don't have an agent. They, you know, because a lot of you know, objections that we hear, that I've heard from agents lately that are holding open houses, like, oh, the buyers coming in already have agents, right? Well, probably all of the neighbors that want to see that new listing haven't talked to an agent yet. So that, and like you said, go get some more listings out of that.
That's a strategy. That is one strategy we do, because we do the buy, and that's not just the buyer side, we do the listing side. So same script, but I teach you how to put on your like buyer's hat and your listing hat.
Love
And
it. Yep.
yeah, and that's exactly what I teach is like do a private event just for the neighbors, invite the neighbors.
Isn't
And
that
tell
interesting how that mindset shift, even top, like you said, top producing like team leaders or brokerage, whatever can have, just that mindset shift of, oh, they're just those neighbors to
right.
be an excellent, like how different that mindset shift makes and how much more opportunity that you could get from doing an open house, not
Yes.
also listings. I love
Yes.
that.
That's how I get all of my listings is that way.
That's amazing. I mean, because
Right.
a lot of agents aren't thinking that. They're just thinking open house buyer leads.
Right.
So
And they dismiss the neighbors because they've heard it so much, nosy neighbors is a thing. They've heard it so much. If a neighbor comes in, they don't even talk to them is what I see. Yeah.
missed opportunities.
Yes. And another thing is when you combine your open houses with your social media strategy, like with social media. So now you know what you're going to do for the week, right? You've booked your open house. There's nothing else to think about. You're not, the days sometimes it's like, oh, I'll prospect on Monday. I'll prospect, I'll Tuesday. Okay, Wednesday. And then Friday, and you're like, then the weeks have gone and you haven't done anything. But when you book an open house, you're like, you're showing up that weekend. That's your prospecting. Right. So during the week, do your own thing because on the weekend you're going to, and then, so now you have something to promote.
Mm-hmm.
So you're promoting before, you're promoting at your open house, maybe a little bit after. Now everyone sees what you're doing. They see you working and you can get leads just from that. They didn't even come to your open house, but they saw you working.
Absolutely. And I love that. And I try, when I'm coaching agents in my Hype Collective, and we talk about their 2 to 3 lead generation pillars, I try and help them infuse how can you make, instead of 3 or 2 separate things, how can we interweave and make all of this work together? Yes, you need social media content. Well, if you have an open house, there you go. There, the open house lead gen pillar helps support the social media and vice versa. And then cold calls or, whatever it is. And so as much as you can integrate all your lead generation strategies and have clarity around how do all of these fit together and how can I maximize efficiency in all of them. So I love that you talked about social media and the open house and the prospecting aspect of just on one open house. That's 3 lead gen pillars that you have covered for that week that you can utilize.
Yes.
Very cool. Okay. So let's get into the fun round. I do this every single podcast where it's a this or that, it's rapid fire. And you just give your first gut reaction, no explanation, just which one would you pick? So I'm going to throw some questions at you. You ready?
Ready.
Okay. Number 1, open house with 0 prep or cold call with no script. Which would you choose?
Open house.
You're like, I'm doing it all day. Okay. Number 2, follow up same day or give it space and try tomorrow.
Same day.
1 obsessed client or 20 lukewarm leads.
1 obsessed client.
Love it. Sign in QR code or face-to-face convo.
Face-to-face convo.
Absolutely. I knew that would be your answer. Okay. Ask, are you working with an agent up front or wait and feel it out?
Never ask. Wait and feel it out.
Love it. Okay. Ooh, we just talked about this. Talk to every neighbor around an open house or save your energy just for the buyers.
Ooh, talk to every neighbor.
Easy. Clipboard and cookies or like a clean, minimal, high-end energy at the open?
No cookies. No cookies.
I promise we did not chat before this. You touched on a lot of things that I'm asking you. I love this.
Funny.
Let the buyer talk as much as they want to, or keep control and lead the conversation.
Ooh, let the buyer talk.
Okay. Say what needs to be said in a direct way, or stay likable and maybe play it safe.
Say what needs to be said.
Hey, you made it. I know it's a hot tip. Everyone's like, "Oh, what are you going to ask me?" I'm like, with the real raw answers. So you survived. And you know what? Oftentimes, like those rounds tell me more about how someone thinks than like 90 minutes of their strategy. So I love this stuff because it just really,
Yeah,
It's part of it. So thank you
that
for
was
being
fun.
willing to do that. So I know we've pushed a lot of tactical buttons, but I want to ask something a little bit more personal to kind of get to know the story behind the strategy, because nobody just like wakes up and says, I'm going to teach agents how to convert at open houses. I'm sure that's not something you've, lifelong plan that you had. But that comes from lived experience and
Mhm.
usually struggle and something that you had to learn the hard way. So tell me about the backstory there. Like, what made you decide to turn this into something that was worth teaching?
Yeah, no, I did struggle a while. I did open house after open house. I was like, oh, that's my thing. That's what I'm going to do. And did them and did them and did them and did not convert. And it was like every weekend I was away from my kids and I'm like, what is going on? And so when I finally like figured it out and I was like, holy crap, this is so good. Um, I was like, I just need to teach this. I became a life coach like 5 years ago, and then just that, and then people started asking me like, "How are you doing this? How are you doing that?" And just the combination of that, I'm like, I need to teach agents this because the dropout rate is so high. First year
Mhm.
agents, the dropout rate is like what, almost 80% or something like that,
It's close to
right?
90 with, so it's 88-ish%, and it's probably higher than that
Yeah.
now, the last couple of years, but
Mhm.
within the first 2 years, they either fail or get out of the industry. Those first.
Yeah, it breaks my heart, and somebody I almost left my first year, and someone said, "Give it another shot," and I wanna pay that forward.
I love that because that's exactly what I tell. I mean, I talk to agents all different experience levels and years in the industry and in my Hype Collective. I mean, that's why I created my coaching program as well. Is like I want to decrease that percentage rate that agents either fail or get out of the industry,
Yes,
because to me that stat, there's a lot of room in there that it's, I don't think 90 80 90% of agents don't have what it takes. It's that they don't have the right coach,
yes,
the right resources, and the help that they need to actually get to where they want to go. So
100%. Yes.
awesome.
Yeah.
So, as I always say, the best outcomes, for all of this, just to kind of recap what we're talking about, it's not from fleeting success, right? Sometimes we do have an open house, or the first one I see a new agent do, and they're like, oh my gosh, 10 groups came through and 3 of them want to work with me, right? But
Mhm.
that, the best outcomes aren't just from that fleeting success or luck or anything. They come from pattern recognition,
Yes.
and you saw the gap. Like, number one, you recognized that there was a gap in what you were doing, and then you built what was needed from that. You didn't give up. And that was awesome. You had someone that said, just give it one more shot. And now, you're giving people a shortcut though through, which is
Yeah.
exactly what I want to do. I'm like, hey, I don't want other agents that I come across to have to go through all the struggles that I did. So
Mhm.
you're doing exactly that, creating that shortcut through
Yeah,
this mess that you had to learn along the way.
right.
And that's what I think makes a program, a coaching platform really valuable. It's not just what's in it, but it's also what protects people from repeating the same unsuccessful habit that
Yes.
oftentimes they get in.
Yes. Yes. Because it could be really frustrating. You really want to do this. You really want, because you can make as much money as there's no cap to how much money you can make in real estate.
Yep.
So I want, to show not just women, but everyone. Yeah.
Shout out to the ladies. I love it.
Yeah, that they can do this. I seem to attract a lot of single moms, which is really strange. Not strange, I don't think strange, because I'm all about the woo. I was a single mom for 11 years, back in the day, and I'm like, I wonder.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
want to
I
give.
kind of attract what we, just the people that are like us. I was raised by, single mom for a while as well. So yes,
Yes.
shout out to the moms out there, single or
Yes,
not.
single or not. Yes, shout out to them. Mhm.
Absolutely. Well, I have one final question for you before we land this thing. And I ask this to everybody, and it's not actually about real estate, it's about you. You've built the business, you built your brand, and this message that you're sharing with people. But at the end of the day, what do you want people to remember you for? Your legacy piece of it.
Just that anything is possible and not to give up.
Love it. That is great advice, no matter where you're at, no matter who you are, no matter what industry you're in. Because there's life is hard. There's no single person that has life without trials, and I think it's one of the things I've learned in leadership with, the agents that I coach and train is that when I'm vulnerable, when I'm willing to share the struggle and the loss that I've had, like that's where true connection really happens. And I think that that helps also the clients that we help. You can have a genuine care for people, and you combine it with the confidence you've gained through your life experience and all the trials you've had to go through. Talk about trust building. It's that vulnerability, and which is why, I know you and I keep saying, like, it's not about what you say, or it's yes, having the skill set and the knowledge, but it's also about the confidence within and leaning into those lessons that you've learned and then sharing that with other people.
Yes, yes. And that's why I love the community aspect that you have and that I have, because it's not just a one and done thing. It's like, let's stay and do this together.
Absolutely. Well, hey, I super, super appreciate it. And I started this episode really, really eager to learn actually how you made open houses your pillar, because that was never necessarily a pillar of me in my journey with my business. It's a strategy that I just never kind of fully committed to. But you confirmed my belief that if you put the right intention and the time into any lead generation strategy, including open houses, then it just takes some consistent effort over time and that belief to actually see the results. And at the end of the day, the truth that people don't want to admit sometimes is that most agents aren't lacking leads. They're lacking direction and a consistent presence, a system, and that confidence to actually go time. And I think you really solidified that. And so whether your lead source is open houses, cold calls, mailers, door knocking, none of it works if you don't know how to work that opportunity. And so I think that's so cool that you're sharing that with your open house mastermind.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what we do as well in the Hype Collective. It's not just tips, it's real time, like rewiring how you show up, how you speak, how you lead and follow through. And that community aspect just solidifies that and helps with that accountability and whatnot. Michelle, if someone wants to go full send using open houses as a pillar in their lead gen strategy, how can they find you and how do they sign up for the Open House Mastermind?
So they can find me on Instagram. It's at Open House Coach, and my links are all in there. You can join now. The mastermind is open, but we're having our kickoff party next Tuesday, but it is open to get in there. I also have a listing launch bonus that's in there. So you can watch this workshop that I did. Okay. And you can, if you have an open house scheduled, I highly recommend, listening to that so that you can start getting your listing leads as well. So
fabulous. I love it. I love it. Also, if you're watching this as a replay, Spotify, YouTube, I have linked all of Michelle's stuff in the show notes, so you guys can access it there. Please share this episode, replay it, and go do your follow-up right after this, and go check out Michelle's stuff and join the Open House Mastermind if you want to make that one of your lead generation pillars. So thank you guys so much. Thank you, Michelle, for sharing all your knowledge and coming on the Hype Seat today.
Yes, thank you, Jen.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we will see you soon, and go check out her website, you guys, launching next week. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Jen.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.